Okay, so welcome to our podcast. This is a little bit different today because this podcast is a spin-off of our radio show. This is the podcast, the Johnjay Van Es podcast. My guest, Walter Clarke. Walter, I'm kind of nervous. My wife said on the way over here, she goes, "You seem nervous." I go, "I am nervous. I'm nervous because you're the field you're in. I don't understand it completely, but you and I met about a month ago, hit it off in Atlanta at this sauna retreat with Jesse Itzler's house, right? We hit it off, and you live here in Phoenix. I live here in Phoenix, and then we connected again. And after spending several hours with you, I was fascinated by you, and I was like, I got this podcast where I'm interviewing people that I think are very interesting. And I was like, I wonder if I could just talk to you and just pick your brain on stuff because I thought you were so interesting. So with that, Walter Clarke, I'm probably going to make a lot of mistakes. I'm probably going to say some things that are really dumb. But if you're laid back enough, I hope you don't mind.
Yeah, there are no dumb questions in my universe. So
okay,
fire away.
All right. So what I also did? I also asked ChatGPT to do a deep dive into you and come up with questions for me to ask you too. So I might do that too at some point.
Perfect.
When I'm like, going, oh my God, I'm lost. He's too smart. Who is Walter Clarke? No, just kidding. So you do the family wealth thing, right?
Yeah, I run a family office. My background really started in '95 in the business, and then in kind of interesting through a lunch I had with a gentleman who sold a very significant business in town. He was an iconic car dealer. Talked about his frustration with the language and understanding of the investment world, which I thought was fascinating because you make an assumption based on how successful people are that they kind of know everything. Right. And so he knew everything about the car business, knew nothing about finance. And so now that he had a lot of money and he would walk into these advisors and these people selling him stuff, he said he was clueless on how to interact with them. And so I thought that was interesting. And so
you said, let me help you? Or?
Well, no, I said, well, what do you need? He said, I need to get educated and not sold. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And so I had a partner at the time and we created a curriculum based on his guidance. And back in '99, we went to ASU and voila, restarted the program at ASU in 1999.
There's like a class that you teach?
Yeah, it was a class geared towards people that came into sudden money. A liquidity event. It's either an inheritance, divorce, business transaction, some sort of major liquidity event that takes you from one economic event to another. And when somebody shows up at your door, you think it's an amazing thing. You get a bucket of money dropped on your doorstep. There's a tremendous amount of responsibility in that, and also a tremendous amount of vulnerability. Mm-hmm. You're like, you don't even know what to do, how to do it, what the terminology is, and you feel at a huge disadvantage to the industry. And so our class was really to close that, what we call an information gap. So we empower families, individuals, so they can make better decisions and be better informed when people are offering them investment products.
But you never worked with the car dealer guy. He just inspired you.
No, we never.
Does he know that now?
What's that?
Does he know what happened?
Yeah. No, he's now deceased. It was Lou Grubb.
Oh, really?
And Lou was an iconic guy. So Lou really tracked what we were doing. We started at ASU and we went on to, 8 or 9 different universities around the country. We've taught at UCLA and UC Berkeley. We even did a program down at the Tech of Monterey. And so, but there's just a common theme because people that create wealth are really good at that thing. So Lou is great at the car business. And so he just never really had a need in the money business. But since he sold his dealerships, he now had a new business. Mm-hmm. And he just didn't like being vulnerable. Nobody likes being vulnerable. Nobody likes walking in and say, well, Johnjay, I got to trust you. I hope you're going to do the right thing. That's not where you want to come from. You want to come from an educated perspective so you can match your knowledge and understanding. And so that's really what we taught. We taught structure and process and really empowered people. And we had all walks of life come to our program over the years. of, engineers and MBAs and all kinds of different people that had the same common theme: educate me, don't sell me.
So are people or graduates of your program, have they gone on to they themselves become wealthy, or they themselves now are wealth management people?
No, they're not. We didn't teach to wealth management people. We didn't really want those guys in, because that's a different educational program. We wanted to teach to the money.
Okay.
And what does the money need to understand, whether or not they want to try to do it themselves, or if they work with the wealth industry, then what do they need to look for, and how do they hire, and how do they evaluate? And really, it was just an A to Z about, hey, if you got a bunch of money. We had one guy, fascinating guy, probably the most eclectic, fascinating guy. He was employee number 21 at Google. And he created Gmail and went on to do like amazing things. And he walked in, he's 30 years old, worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And he just said, show me behind the curtain. That's it.
What year was this?
This was, this is probably, 06, 07.
Okay. Because what's funny about that, right?
Google went public, I think, but it was interesting because it was so funny. His email address, he says, I want to meet with you. His email address was his first name.
At Google.
At google.com.
Okay. So funny story. I was about to say, when you brought up Lou Grubb, this is the thing about Walter that I've discovered, is that you and I have these paths that have crossed in many different ways. Because I have a Lou Grubb story too. I have two different stories for that. But let me jump to the Google thing. One of my wife's best friends, who was in our wedding, we met and we were dating in San Diego. And one of my wife's best friends was working for what was it? The San Diego Journal, the San Diego Business Journal, and it's a couple of years out of college. So this is like I think it was like 96, 97, 95, 96 or something like that. And she was quitting the San Diego Business Journal to go join a startup, and it was Google. And she was the third person. Her email is Carrie@google.com. And I remember telling her, going, are you stupid? Why would you leave the San Diego Business Journal to go to this startup no one's ever heard of before? Right? I mean, now, she drives Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Rolls Royces everywhere she goes, and she cashed out pretty big, right? Now she's at Reddit. Right now. But so that's a Walter path. A couple of days ago, you and I, when we were hanging out the Global Ambassador, after I left there, Walter? I had people, because I went back the next day for something, and they just brought up Lou Grubb. My wife, who you just met, her dad is a car dealer, or was a car dealer too. He sold out. Was he pals with Lou Grubb? Yeah. They were good friends with Lou Grubb. And a good friend of mine, about 7 to 8 months ago, I was in Cancun getting stem cells. I'm a big stem cell freak. And I was in Mexico getting stem cells next to a guy. Me and the guy hit it off, and he was from here too. And I need to get my cardio up. So him and I started hiking about twice a week, and sometimes more than that. And he lives in the house that Lou Grubb built. Weird, right? I got Lou Grubb. I got Walter connections. I mean, I know it's not, but an interesting fact about his house is at one point he had the tallest tree in Arizona. It was a maple, and it was Lou Grubb's tree.
Well,
I know it's weird.
So what was kind of fascinating about the story? So ASU, as an organization, was actually afraid of a financial class. So we wrote it and went through all the due diligence and was with them for a year. And Lou would always check in with us. How's it going? And finally, they said, you know what? We're not really sure we want to do this, because they were afraid that we were going to recommend something and then that was going to go bad and that they were going to get sued. We had really told them that our class was process driven and not opportunity driven. So Lou said, hang on a second. And he called me 2 days later and said, you're approved. And I said, what'd you do? And he said, well, Laddie Core is a good friend of mine. Prior to Michael Crow being the president of ASU, called Laddie Core and said, Laddie, you got to do this class because it's for people like me and all the others that need to be educated without a brochure. Because you can imagine, Lou's transaction hit the paper, so everybody knew what the transaction was and the approximate value. So he had everybody under the sun, the real estate guys, the insurance guys, the wealth guys, the stock guys, everybody under the sun was selling him something. And Lou is such a nice guy that if somebody would call him and say, hey, can I grab 10 minutes of your time? He would say yes. And he just was beside himself at just the inability to kind of sort it all out. So
what was that number? I'm just, it was in the paper. What was it? What was it?
It was 100 million.
So he sold for 100 million
back in 96.
Right. Wow.
So,
wow. So since then, right now, like, do you manage 10 families, 50 families?
6.
6 families?
Yeah.
Do you take new clients or that's?
If it's the right fit.
So it's kind of like the firm.
Yeah.
Like you're just kind of.
It's the right. We do things very specifically and have a very specific model, and some people fit really well into that and some people don't.
Are they well-known families in Arizona or all over the country?
Well, we sprinkle between San Francisco, LA, and here in North Carolina.
Oh, but they're these families own businesses all around town. Like,
yeah,
businesses we would know. Like, is it like a doctor thing? You're not allowed to say who it is, or
yeah, it's very. There's a lot of confidential.
I got it.
Ality of this stuff.
What are some numbers? Like this story, it sounds like those people you always hear about that win the lotto, and they don't know what to do with their money.
Right.
And then they go broke.
Yeah.
Or a lot of like pro athletes.
Yep.
They get all this money, and you always hear about so many pro athletes. They had a 10-year career making millions and millions and millions, and now they have nothing. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. We actually got really, really close to doing a program with the NBA. But unfortunately it didn't happen. You need a commitment and a certain amount of time with people in order to get them educated. Mm-hmm. You can't do it kind of haphazardly. You can't do it, 1 hour here at a lunch, or it's gotta be a committed process. The program that I taught was 18 hours, 6 weeks, 3 hours once a week. And it was homework and reading and worksheets.
But you're not teaching now, are you?
Haven't for a while.
So what's a day like for you? Because I know you're also into health and wellness. Like, you get up at what time? What do you do?
Well, I mean, I'm training kind of on the side. I'm training for an ultramarathon,
which is 100 miles.
100 miles in Leadville. So that's kind of a personal challenge that I'm taking on.
Have you ever done that before? 100 miles?
No, I don't like to run. So it's been a really amazing mental process for me. I've done a lot of extreme events that have tested me in different ways, but I think this will be the toughest thing I've ever done.
Like, what are some things you've done? Triathlons?
So I've done 4 Ironmans. I actually did 1 Ironman 7 months after full hip replacement with a kid that had cerebral palsy. So I carted around 140 pounds for 17 hours, and my doctor said that was impossible to be able to do that. And, again, mindset and discipline and having a plan, and so ended up doing that and finished with 20 minutes to spare. And then I did the hardest mountain bike race in the world, which is called the Cape Epic. And that's an 8-day mountain bike race in South Africa. And so that was a different race because it was a multi-day. So we were on the bike 7 to 9 hours a day for 8 days.
How do you plan for that? Like, I rode a bike 3 miles and my butt hurt. How do you, I got to believe 9 hours on a bike, your butt had to hurt.
Yeah. I mean,
doesn't matter what seat you wear, what pad you have in your shorts.
You hurt everywhere.
Right.
I mean, it's not just your butt, it's your hands, it's your neck, it's everything. And, you hurt in a way that is different.
Right.
And then how about you do that and then you wake up the next day and you do it again for 7 more days?
Is there recovery in between or no?
Not really. I mean, we were slow. Mm-hmm. And so the pros do it super fast. But by the time we got in, it went anywhere from 4 to 6 at night. You leave at 7 to 7:30, 8, and you eat. You're not moving really fast. You take a shower, you eat, you get a massage, and you go to bed.
When is the ultramarathon?
August 15th.
And how many miles have you done at one time training for that?
30.
Wow.
So now I'm in ramp up mode right now. I've run 5 marathons in the last 7 months. And so my body's got a lot of base of a volume on it, and you learn a lot about yourself and how your body holds up with injury and little knickknacks and getting sick and all those things that are all part of the journey.
That's incredible. Like, are you running at a fast pace? Have you paced your miles?
Yeah. I mean, it's really not a speed race.
Right.
I do some speed training, but it's mostly just
endurance,
long and steady and nutrition. So when you're running that long and that far.
What about when you're not racing? Are you watching your nutrition or are you carb loading? Like, what's the...
I mean, I eat pretty healthy. So
do you drink?
No.
ever? Like
No.
that's not because you're training. You just don't drink.
Right.
Wow.
Stopped that when I was 22.
Oh, that's good.
That's a whole nother story.
Is
That's
it?
a different podcast.
We cover it all here, man. I mean, when you do when you and I were just sitting a couple of weeks ago with Jesse Itzler,
Yeah.
and that guy runs ultra marathons
Yeah.
and does all these incredible things. When you do that, are you goal setting? Do you write these
Yeah,
things down?
you teach yourself physical mindset, which translates into business mindset. Like we come into business differently. You know, we have fears and insecurities that hit us a different way. And we talk ourselves out of doing things in business, whether it's a new venture or something we don't know how to do, or I don't want to look stupid, or, you know, all that stuff. And when you take on big physical challenges, you're kind of training your mind to transcend things that make you uncomfortable. And so I like the parallel. I like building that muscle physically, which then translates. See, emotional challenges are harder to overcome because they're a lot more subtle. And they kind of, way that they exist in your mind, they're sort of covert in how they want to try to have you not do what you intend to do. So,
Well, are these things like ultra marathons and Ironmans? Is that like an addiction? I mean, it sounds like. I mean, I can't imagine. I tried today on the treadmill. I was walking on the treadmill today before I worked out, and I thought, let me just do a little sprint. I went, and I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to be funny. I did 3 seconds, and I was like, I'm out of a run.
I don't think it's an addiction. I think it's a lifestyle. I think it's a lifestyle of what you're committed to and how you want to live your life. Now, in any endurance, there's sort of a build. You know, when I started triathlons, I did a sprint distance, which is relatively short, and then I did an Olympic distance, and then somebody said, "Hey, let's do a half Ironman," and I'd never even thought about doing a full Ironman. I mean, that was like impossible. So I did a half, and then I did the half, and I'm like, "There's no way I could go another minute." And then, a month and a half later, I was doing a full.
But this ultra marathon you're doing in August, back in November, or did you write this down? In 2025, I want to do an ultra marathon. Like, what made you want to do the ultra marathon?
Well, it was kind of the next thing because I don't really like to run, and running long distances, it's absolutely a mental challenge, after you get beyond 10 miles. And so I really wanted to be part of that. And then a couple of my daughter's friends had signed up for it, and they're like, "Hey, let's do that." So I'm competing with a couple of 25-year-olds, and I'm 62. And so they don't know what's coming.
So are you in better shape now with your hips replaced than you were before?
Oh yeah.
Like there's no pain in your hips, even when you run 30 miles. There's any kind of pain at all. Like you don't even know that you.
Well, when you think about when you do amazing things and you do big things, there's a tremendous multiplier to yourself and others. Mm-hmm. So like if you go into Phoenix Sports Med today, you walk through the hallways and there's nothing but professional athletes that have gotten, Tommy John surgery and knee replacements and all that. But in the exam and consultation room, there's no professional athletes. There's just a poster of a 52-year-old guy pushing Patrick Utitas, who has cerebral palsy, across the finish line at Ironman. And so when people say, "Hey, what's my life going to be like?" They can't translate or relate to a professional athlete because they're so far removed from that.
Right. But
a 52-year-old guy pushing 140 pounds for 17 hours, they can relate to that.
Did that get national news when you did that?
I don't know.
Because that story sounds familiar to me.
Yeah. Could have.
You don't know.
Yeah.
So then after the ultramarathon, what's next?
I don't know.
Everest?
We'll see.
One of those things?
I don't know. We'll see.
Well, when you do stuff like sauna, because you and I met in the sauna, do you try to do extreme temperatures? Do you try to go for longer distance there too?
No, I mean, I always try to challenge myself, but there's never like kind of an end.
Do you advise for anyone watching this that's maybe, I don't want to run. I hate running, but talking to you now makes me want to learn to run. Because I also think I have bad running form. Do you work on your form? Do you have a coach?
Yeah.
You have a coach?
Yeah, I had to relearn how to run after my hip replacement.
Oh, you did?
Because so people's running form causes a lot of joint dysfunction.
I believe that.
So I had to learn how to rerun in order to have longevity because I knew I wanted to use the hip. And so I went to a running guy and I said, watch my gait. And so we had to relearn to run.
you'd be really interested in the stem cell stuff that I'm doing. Have you done any of that stuff yet?
No.
Oh man, I think, cause, I mean, you don't look 62 to me. You look late 40s.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like, what's your anti-aging secret?
Well, I don't drink. I'm healthy. I have a sleep regimen. I have a schedule.
Do you monitor your sleep?
I don't monitor it. I'm not a gadget guy. I'm pretty lazy. And so, I just have a particular routine, and my dad's 90, my mom's 89, and we just have great genes and take care of ourselves and love to exercise. And so
let's talk about this book.
Okay.
I remember we were, again, about a month ago. I feel like a host of a talk show. 401 Kid. We were sitting in Georgia at Jesse Itzler's cabin.
Yeah.
And you said, I have this book. It's called 401 Kid. And for some reason, this sticks in my head. He goes, what a great name for a book. What a great name. So what is 401 Kid?
So 401 Kid is the result of so many conversations that I've had with people over the years. I mean, you would think that people that came to my class, the Lou Grubb, who was actually one of the founders, would have a level of financial acumen in their world. And people always said categorically, I wish I would have learned this earlier. And I just got tired of hearing it. And then I was somewhere in a very wealthy area, and I had a very disturbing thing happen. And that was, I was with some dads, and their kids had just graduated college. And they found out I was an educator, and they started peppering me with questions like, what should we be teaching our kids? And I kind of was like, and they were in the finance business. And I thought, this is sort of interesting. And there's a great book written by John Safort called The Wealthy Gardener. And it's the one I recommend to everybody to read. It's similar to my book, only, very deep, very well written. He draws the analogy between a garden and investing. And so I got tired. And what the dad said, I said, what are you teaching your kid about money? And he goes, I'm not. And I thought, why is that? He goes, I don't want him to be a spoiled, entitled kid. And so I thought about that. And so here we are, and I'll give you the landscape. So in the Bay Area, his dad lived in a little community called Atherton. And Atherton is one of the most wealthiest zip codes in California, not in the country. And I just said to him, I said, that's a mistake. You really got to talk to your kid. You got to be vulnerable with him. You got to tell him about your journey. You're not trying to give him money. You need to educate him about what is your successes, your failures, how you did it, what was good, what didn't work, and really the whole overall landscape. And so the other thing that was also impactful about that is I watched those families and the trajectory of their kids. They were all Ivy League, investment banking, New York. Mm-hmm. But then what about the landscaper? What about the dock worker? What about the restaurant guy? And what kids typically do is they will follow in the footsteps of what they see. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, I walked away and I said, I got to do something. I got to write a book whereby parents need to educate their kids. And then the one thing that we're just not doing is we have a window of opportunity from 0 to 10 when our kids like us, they think we're smart, and their minds are very pliable and they're ready to absorb. And we're not doing any of it in this zone. And that's a massive, massive mistake. So my book is really a wake-up call around how to build kids' self-esteem, how to build their character. Because if we don't do it, because it's in the forward, like if we don't do it, guess who's going to do it? The internet.
Oh, God, yeah.
And the internet is going to tell our kids, and there's an epidemic with suicides and kids that can't get out of their rooms and all the things that are affecting our kids, because the internet is so persuasive in the message of, my life is amazing, yours sucks. Mm-hmm. And then kids adopt that, and then they get on this rat treadmill of, I got to get something on the outside to make myself feel better.
Yeah, it's doom scrolling.
Yeah.
They just start looking, and then there's a...
And parents got to get in front of that.
Yeah.
They 100% got to get in front of it.
Parents do it too. That's a problem too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what? It's so damn interesting because I know nothing about that stuff. No one ever taught me how to do that stuff.
Yep.
And in school, they kind of stopped teaching all that. I remember when I was in school, I remember taking a class. I don't remember what class it was, but they taught us how to write a check. They told us how to fill out the W-2s and W-4s. I don't think that happens anymore, right? So how are they going to teach you how to manage wealth? So this is on Amazon. This is everywhere? Bookstores? Everywhere?
It's on audio. And
Is it you reading it?
uh-huh. Yep.
Can I keep this one? I want to read it.
Yep.
The other day, I thought you posted something so funny, and it was, I experienced this myself a couple weeks ago. I saw David Goggins running on the canal. David Goggins, Navy SEAL, motivational speaker, tough guy. And he was running towards me, and I was like, that looks like David Goggins. I'm going to say something. No, I'm not going to say something. He runs by, and I thought, that would have been so cool to say, hey, Dave, I'm going to run with you. But I can't run, so I probably would have run like 3 or 4 steps. But then you saw David Goggins. Walk me through that experience.
So I'd actually seen him the day before.
Uh-huh.
And so I looked up, and he was running on the other side of the canal. I'd heard that he was in town, and I'd heard that he'd been running on the canal. And I knew it was just a matter of time because I run so much that there was a likelihood I would run into him. And so I saw him, and it looked like he wasn't running that fast. And he was kind of sauntering. And I was 11 miles into a 12-mile run. So I was pretty cooked when I had nothing left in the tank. But the minute I saw him, I'm like, okay, it's game on. I'm going to catch this guy. And boy, I emptied the tank, and I could not catch him. And I was flying. I mean, I was rolling. He's fast.
Yeah.
But the thing that was really, really impactful to me was I saw him the next day, and this day he was running at me. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to flip around. And so I flipped around, and we ran together a little bit. And I said, how far are you going? He goes, 21. I go, do you mind if I run with you? And he goes, no, I run alone. And that's the only thing he said to me. It wasn't, I'm sorry. It wasn't he didn't explain anything to me. Mm-hmm. And the really fascinating thing is he is so hyper focused. He had no water. He had no headphones. He had no sunglasses. He had no camel pack. He had no nutrition. He had no water. It was just black shorts and shoes. And he said, no, I run alone. He had nobody with him. It was just him.
So then do you just slow down and let him go?
Yeah.
Or do you?
Yeah, I didn't want to get killed.
When you run, what do you got headphones on? What do you listen to?
Shit, I listen to audiobooks. So I read, during my Leadville training, I've probably read 40 audiobooks.
Does it just take you away? You're just in the zone running?
Yeah, I mean, you learn a lot. I love reading all kinds of different books, and it's on my journey. Sometimes I listen to music, but it's mostly.
Will you take a call?
Sometimes.
Wow. Very cool. So I went to ChatGPT because, like I said, I was like when I have other people in here, like I had Sam Fox in here, I had this Rafael Gonzalez, this scientist guy about stem cells. Like it's stuff that I know, so I can just, like I can talk to Sam Fox about restaurants. He lives on my street. We could talk about, we grew up in the same town. So it's like with you, it's just so out of my world. I should have read this book first and then come in there and said, and ask you questions. So I went to ChatGPT, and I'm fascinated with ChatGPT. And I was like, I'm interviewing this guy, Walter Clarke. Do a deep dive, and can you come up with some good questions for me to ask? And holy smokes, man. Can you share the story behind your Ironman triathlon? You already did. What lessons did you learn from the challenges yes, okay, you already did that one. What are common mistakes families make when dealing with sudden wealth, and how can they be avoided? Boom, that's a good one.
What happens, there's a thing with money when you get a windfall, and people look at it 2 ways. Athletes do this all the time, but it's what money can support versus what money can buy. Mm-hmm. And so there's a very, very different, distinct method around that. So money generally can support about a 4% distribution rate. So if you get $10 million, that supports $400,000 a year in annual spending. But $10 million can buy a big house, cars, a boat, a lot of stuff. But what you do is you diminish the engine. Money's the engine that generates return, which feeds your lifestyle. And so what happens for people in the sudden wealth spectrum, kind of twofold. One is a lot of people want to sell you stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people get caught in complexity and don't keep things simple. And they get involved in a lot of things, and they don't understand. And so therefore they make a lot of mistakes and they lose a lot of money. There's lots of examples. I wrote another book before this one called The Big Risk.
Oh, I thought it was a big mistake.
Yeah, no, The Big Risk. And we watched a lot of people vanish money and getting into things because they thought they were smart. They made money in one business and they thought it translated into another. And so they took unnecessary risk and jeopardized their lifestyle. People overspend, and therefore that bucket of money can't support.
So is there basic advice? You think people should save a certain percentage of their annual?
Well, there's two sides. There's the accumulation side where, you're saving and you're investing for a future date. Mm-hmm. The audience that I taught to had the windfall. So it wasn't really about savings anymore. It was about, I got this amount of money. How can I best invest it to where it can be efficient, and then it can serve me and my family, not only for my generation, but future generations to come.
Was there ever a moment when you first started where you had a new client, and let's say they were worth $1 billion and they're coming to you? I don't know how wealthy your clients are, but if the first time someone came to you with their money, said, help me, did you freak out? Did you stress? Were you worried? Did you make mistakes?
No, because you do it in such a way that you craft a plan based on what they're trying to accomplish. So you're really matching what it is that they're wanting you to do. So you just have to understand volatility and how markets go up and down. And it's really, for a lot of what financial advisors do, is regulate the emotions of their customers. We see it right now with the tariffs and the world and the panic that we saw not less than 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. The world was falling apart and people were running for cover, and now all of a sudden the sun's out.
Right.
Like we just made a deal with China.
I just told my wife that today. I said, we should have bought stocks this morning, right? Was today the day to do it?
No, it was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. I said
when
that
everybody
2 weeks
was
ago
running
too.
when everybody was running for cover. I mean, what happens for people is we're a big advocate in the class and in my practice. You got to keep things simple. Mm-hmm. Complexity breeds loss, and the families that do the best over a long period of time have simplicity inside their investment thesis. And they don't get involved in the newest and the latest.
Crypto. They don't do crypto.
Whether they do it or not, they may do it in a small percentage, but they don't chase the fads that everybody else is running around with. They're very basic. They're very simple. They're not on the 5-year plan or the 2-year plan. They're on the 50-year plan or the 100-year plan.
What is your take on crypto, by the way?
I don't have a lot of opinion about it. It's an equity asset that has. I look at every asset in terms of two things. One is its expected return, like how much money it'll make going forward, and then how much volatility it has. And so based on those two things, how much of it are you going to mix into your equation? That's what it's three things. It's expected return, variation, and correlation. Those are three things that you look at when you're mixing in and you're building a portfolio. Mm-hmm. And so crypto is just a thing. Mm-hmm. It's not the thing. It's not the catch-all. It's like, do you want 5% crypto? Do you want 2%? Do you want 10%? And then what does that do in terms of the variability to your portfolio? So it's you're building something that can weather storms. That's what is important, because most people, in portfolio management, if you violate your fear threshold, like we lost 22% in the stock market in literally 3 weeks. Trump gets elected, right. Everybody's excited. The market goes up. Then he comes in office. He starts rattling the saber. Oh shit. We're going down. And then when do you jump ship? And rational people become very irrational in fear. And so when you're crafting portfolios, you got to do it in such a way to where people stay the course when they're in a lot of fear.
That's great advice.
And if you don't do that, you're going to make a decision. So like all the people, and there's a lot of them, because tariffs were really scary, right?
Right.
Like the world's falling apart. And a lot of people said, I'm just going to go to the sidelines. I'm just going to wait this out. Right?
Right.
Well, you got to make two decisions. You make one decision when to sell, and then you got to make another decision to rebuy. Now today, they read the paper and like, oh no, do I get back in or I not? I guarantee you they're getting back in higher than what they sold for.
Right. Right.
Because people sell on the way down. They don't
Right.
sell when everything's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a psychological game. So if you just do what we teach in the class, if you just do basic things and get market-like returns and stay the course, you'll do better than 98% of all the people that are out there.
I agree with you. I think that's what we do. Isn't that what we do? Good. You brought up your daughter, 25-year-old daughter. Did you teach her all this?
So she's a financial advisor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so she's a rock star.
Does she work with you or just
No.
her own thing?
No, she works with a group out of the Bay Area at Northwestern Mutual, an amazing group, amazing firm, an amazing team. And, she gets it.
Was she always inquisitive growing up, asking you questions about finances and how to do this? Dad, how do you do that?
Well, both my kids, my older one was an athlete. My younger one was a more analytical. But what's happening is because they've been in the conversation for so long, they both really understand budget and spending. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that is paramount for families and kids is they need to understand the twofold aspects of revenue, how much money you make versus expenses. And where a lot of people make a ton of mistakes is in lifestyle inflation, because you start making more money. And we have conversations all the time about bonuses and as wage increases, and, can you keep your lifestyle in check and not buy the bigger apartment, the bigger car? Because that's what 20-year-olds do. They want to impress everybody. I'm driving a bigger car. I live in a bigger apartment. I have nicer stuff. And, it's the challenge of what we call the fake rich, people that want to show an air of, and so to be able to have an image of discipline where you're not flaunting your lifestyle, but what you have is tremendous amount of free cash flow where you're putting stuff away in your retirements accounts and your Roth, and you're building for the future, which is not sexy. Mm-hmm. It's sexy to show people that look at this vacation, or look at this car, or look at this watch, or look at this fanfare, or look at this party that I was in. And that's not freedom.
But what about living and having life experiences? I have a friend of mine that's pretty wealthy, and he does incredible things. And he told me several years ago, life is about experiences. You can't take this money with you when you go. And my father passed away at the age of 66. And he was always saving. And he lived life, but he didn't live life. Like for me right now, I look at it I'm like, let's get those floor seats to the Suns. Let's fly first class. Let's get the private jet here. Let's buy the fancy car. And of course, now I think we're broke. So, but we have these great life experiences, right? That doesn't sit well with you?
Well, I mean, you have two aspects to the wealth management game: accumulation and distribution, mm-hmm. and health and longevity and enjoyment. Some decisions you make are efficient decisions, some are enjoyment decisions. There has to be a balance, but you can't be a slave to your lifestyle. I've been involved with some celebrities and some Hollywood figures, and I've looked at their books, and they have no money. They have no money. And so they're a slave to their business.
Right. And
one of the things when you're a high income earner, what that means is you have more variability to your income than the $50,000 to $100,000 guy. Mm-hmm. He has a bad year, he makes 60. The $1 million guy, he has a bad year, he makes 0. So if you got a really, really high lifestyle, you're in trouble. Mm-hmm. So it's really about financial freedom. And so I believe that if you're reaching for lifestyle, but you're impoverished because you're overspending, you're not making lifestyle decisions, mm-hmm. because you're suffering. So like my daughter and I went over her budget. She called me and said, Dad, I'm overspending. And she said, I'm going to cut out my latte. She went through her budget kind of line item by line item. And she says, I'm really going to sacrifice because I'm not going to have these things. And we thought about it for a minute and we said, are you sacrificing and are you not? So when you're spending money that you know you don't have, is that a sacrifice? That's almost like a punishment because you know in the back of your mind that you can't afford that stuff. So you're putting on a credit card. And then the credit card bill comes and you feel guilt, you feel remorse, and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to make that payment? I have no money. But yet I'm showing the world that I'm a baller. And so months go by and she calls me back. She goes, Dad, the credit cards are gone. I go, how do you feel? She goes, I feel like $1 million. I go, do you feel like you made sacrifice? She said, 100% not. I got right with myself. I had to talk to myself in the mirror. And that's really what we need to teach our kids is that delayed gratification, that fiscal discipline, that want versus that need, and what you can afford and what you can't afford.
So she cut out lattes?
She cut out lattes. She cut out a lot of things.
Yeah.
She cut out a lot of things. She cut it to the bone. She said, I don't want to live like this anymore.
What about you? Is there anything you splurged on that you regret or splurged on that you thought was...
So I really break my life into two categories, the spender Walter and then the fiscally disciplined Walter. So in the book, The Big Risk, you know, I never learned it, even though I was a financial educator. It's like the cobbler's kids have no shoes. You know, I never drank the Kool-Aid, and I always believed that more was coming. And so, you know, when I made money and spent money, I spent equal amount of money that I made. So it was a very, very painful lesson going through that scenario, and it really shapes you in a different way. And so you have a very, very different view because the 2008-09 downturn was tough, very tough, tough on me, tough on a lot of people. A lot of people lost a lot.
But since then, so now you've got the two Walters, you know who they are?
Yeah, definitely. You go through a painful, and I think I needed to go through all that because hence here's the book. You know, The Big Risk is there and 401 Kid. And it's like, you got to get in front of this. Cause I grew up with Mr. Spender. You know, my dad had to live a life with other people. We were ski racers. So there was little money, mid money, and big money. And we were little money that wanted to be big money. And in the boat racing world, if you're ever a racer, a car racer, boat racer, it is not an inexpensive sport.
No.
And so he tried to compete in a landscape that he just couldn't compete in. And so I just learned that. And what you learn, he never sat down at the table and said, son, I'm spending every nickel I made and then some. He didn't say that. I just experienced it in his behaviors. So kids are going to watch what you do. They watch what you do. And even for families that are financially challenged, what I say to them is you can hire coaches and steer your kids towards the internet so they can pick up mentors like Sarah Blakely. I mean, Jesse's wife. Love Jesse. I've never really met Sarah.
Right.
And so in my book, Sarah's dad is leaving their household, and gives her a series of tapes from Wayne Dyer and says, and they're the limitless Wayne Dyer's tapes that you can do anything. And she grabbed that at 15 years old and realized it was up to her to create her own destiny.
I didn't know that story.
Yeah, they didn't have much.
Right.
And so 401 Kid is more for the lower income than it is for the privileged families, because there's so many resources now that are next to free where you can teach your kid entrepreneurial characteristics, and your kids can have a different life than you. If you want your kid to be a landscaper, a mechanic, whatever, that's fine. But maybe instead of being a wage earner in the landscape company, he can own the landscape company. Or maybe he can develop an app or a technology or a new electric motor. So maybe there's many, many things that they can do.
I believe my wife, did you go on a date with Wayne Dyer's son? Were you on a date with somebody like that? Some motivational? I was just going off the connection with the Walter connection. I feel like you told me, or was it Ken Blanchard? There was somebody you went on a date with that was a motivational speaker. Ken Blanchard, yeah, his son. I didn't know that about Sarah Blakely. And a real quick story, when I started in radio, I was on a sports radio station I was an intern for free. and a guy there gave me these cassettes that were Tony Robbins cassettes. They were cassettes, go back to, and I listened to those things every freaking day, over and over and over again. And I always felt like you could pull something out of there, and just pull something that makes you a better person or better at what you do. You're ahead of the game. I didn't know that about Sarah Blakely. That's awesome. And that's in your book? You talk about her?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is this before you met Jesse?
Yes.
That's pretty wild, isn't it?
Yeah. Jesse's in the book 3 times.
He is?
Uh-huh.
Before you met, you didn't, that's wild.
Yeah.
Wow, you manifested that, right? Because now you're spending the night at his house.
So Jesse did a couple things on the kids' side. One is he said, raise gritty. We're raising our kids to be too soft.
Yes, I agree with that.
And he said, praise the effort, not the results. I think parents are being way too negative.
Mm-hmm.
The tennis parent or the swim parent or the baseball parent that's yelling at their kids through the chain link fence because they're not performing in the way that I think that's a cancer. So I think we need to do a better job of encouragement. I think we need to do better job at mentorship. I think we need to teach our kids entrepreneurial traits about business and lemonade stands and what's possible for them out in the future instead of, soccer, sports, music. We really got to teach life skills, and we hire so many coaches. I mean, all the kids have music teachers, dance coaches, shooting coaches.
Yeah, right.
Why not have like a life coach for the parents and for their kids to create unity in the family, to bridge that?
I think it's a great idea.
That educational gap, because there's an interesting story. Francis Tiafoe. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yeah, why do I know that name?
So Francis,
he's the tennis player.
Tennis player.
Yeah, the tennis player. That's right. That's
Francis is incredible. My daughter played tennis with Francis.
Oh wow!
Coming up through the junior ranks, and the guy was a beast. And but his father was a garbage collector in Detroit. So imagine, he has this kid that's got some tennis skill, and his dad says, "Francis, I'm going to teach you how to play tennis." That would have completely derailed his tennis career. Mm-hmm. But instead, his dad recognized that his son had talent. He's like, I got to get my son to people that can further this talent. And it's the same with entrepreneurship. I don't care who you are. We have to expose our kids to this dynamic to show them how to create, how to build, how to be a part of. What was fascinating in my class to Sudden Wealth, I never had a founder show up. Not one time did the guy that created the company come to my class. Mm-hmm. But how many millionaires and multiples of millionaires come because they had equity in the company? Employee 21 didn't start Google. Mm-hmm. He just went to work there. Mm-hmm. So teaching our kids how to get equity. How many millionaires are at Walmart, Meta, Facebook, NVIDIA, Palantir? We got to teach our kids that equity's the game, not wages. Mm-hmm. And so the sooner we teach them that, the sooner they learn and they start to look at the world differently.
The problem with the Tiafoe story is I think every parent thinks that their kid is Francis. So they get him a coach. They get him a shooting coach. They get him a batting coach, a hitting coach, a pitching coach, right? And then I call it the American Idol syndrome. And I used to feel like that about my son. I thought, am I a parent like that? Because I thought my son was a pretty good basketball player. And I'm right, because he's got a scholarship to play basketball. I was right. But I used to think, like, when they weren't playing my kid, I'd be like, why aren't they putting him in? Like, he's great. And then I remember American Idol, season 1 of American Idol. One of the reasons American Idol took off was because of all the horrible singers. Do you remember the horrible singers? Yeah. And all those horrible singers, they'd interview their parents. And the parents would go, my son is just the best. He's the greatest. And I thought, is that me? Do I think my son is a real good basketball player, but in reality, he's not? Am I an American Idol parent? Now, I look back and I was right, because he's currently playing with a basketball scholarship in Hawaii. So I think there's a lot of that. Like Francis Tiafoe, his dad saw something special, but he knew it. He wasn't an American Idol parent. Somewhere along the line, someone's got to be realistic. We need a book on being a realistic parent. Does your kid have talent? Does he not have talent? But you also got to be tougher on them too, because they're so soft.
But if you think about the odds and the percentages, how many kids grow up to actually, 1, become a professional player, and 2, make money?
Right.
The odds are, but if you teach entrepreneurial skills,
oh yeah,
how many of those kids are going to go on to create businesses or go to work for businesses? that changed the world.
Where does someone get an entrepreneurial coach?
Oh, they're all over the internet.
Well, it's the internet. We're trying to keep kids off the internet.
They are all there. Jesse Itzler is one.
Can you hire him individually?
No, but there's the one guy that runs around on the internet, School of Hard Knocks. I think he's amazing. He goes around and interviews.
Oh, yeah. He was an athlete, an ex-pro handball athlete.
Yeah.
And then he played.
And he has little.
Lewis Howes.
He has all kinds of things. There's all kinds of very affordable.
Right.
Whether it's Gary Vee or a Grant Cardone or a Russell Brunson, there's tremendous amount of resources on the internet for free on people that you can learn. Wayne Dyer tapes. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that stuff's free now. You know, the Anthony Robbins stuff, I had it when I moved out here in 85. I came to a Tom Hopkins seminar.
I was just talking about him to my wife. I went to his seminars.
Yeah, he was
Is he still around? Because he lived out here.
He is still around.
He is still around.
But he blew me away.
Yeah.
He showed me something, and it was affordable.
Right.
We have to do a better job at sports, music, dance, all great stuff. We all learn great characteristics. But we have to start teaching business. We're not teaching business to our kids. We're not teaching life skills about learning, trying, failing, excelling, building, creating value. Value comes from compensation. The more value, the more we're not teaching these things to our kids early, and we just need to do a better job of it.
You're 100% right. Let me ask you this, because you and I are going to this party in a couple of days, and I was asking you what to wear. You said business casual, but you're like, where do you get your style? Because you got, every time I've seen you, you're like style. Don't you tell me? Did somebody help you?
I look on the internet.
Do you really?
I'm a visual person.
So you're like, that looks cool. It'll work on me because you dress sharp.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I want to dress like you.
Yeah,
we'll dress the same when we go to this party.
Yeah, be good.
All right, so this is out. 401 Kid, great book. I thought, because I do this thing where I try not to research anyone I'm interviewing. Like I'll come up, but the one thing that popped up when I was asked, I thought you didn't have a book called The Great Mistake, The Big Mistake. It's The Big Risk.
The Big Risk.
Well, maybe you do part 2, The Big Mistake. The Big Mistake is me calling it The Big Mistake on this interview, not doing my research. All right. Well, thanks, Walter Clarke. Thanks, brother. Okay, so welcome to our podcast. This is a little bit different today because this podcast is a spin-off of our radio show.